Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando nesikhombise lona lingaphezu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisisupport njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla. Ey'nyangeni ezedlule uPresident Cyril Ramaphosa wamemezela ukuthi kuzoba khona i-National Dialogue. Kodwa umuntu okuyena yena owasungula indaba ye-National Dialogue kwakuwuformer president uThabo Mbeki. Umnikazi wayo le idea nje kwakuwupresident uThabo Mbeki. Then wayimemezela ukuthi iSouth Africa funa ibe ne-National Dialogue. Upresident uRamaphosa wayesememezela ukuthi cha uzwile ukuthi ufuna kube ne-National Dialogue izoba khona. Basitshela ukuthi izokhosta roughly around 700 million. For ukukhuluma nje. From lapho bathi hayi seyehlile manje sezokhosta around 460 something million, 460 something million. For ukuthi kukhulunywe. Kuthe makulungiselelwa i-National Convention eyandulela i-National Dialogue, ama foundation, de Klerk, Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, wonke ahoxa asho ukuthi withdraw from i-National Convention. Sonke besingazi lokho nje kwakukhombisa ukuqala kokufeyila kwe-National Dialogue. Okwesithu, uPresident Ramaphosa mayesekhuluma ku-National Dialogue kwathi funeka sizibuze thina why amanzi angaphumi empompini. Funeka sizibuze thina ukuthi why abanye abantu be-rich abanye behlupheka. Angazi noma beqonda ukuthi thina sibuze ukuthi why yena rich thina sihlupheka na. Why izikole zabelungu zingcono nezikole zabantu abamnyama noma imfundo yabelungu ingcono nemfundo yabantu abamnyama. Sizibuze nje leyo mbuzo leyo. So njengoba bekakhuluma eUNISA uformer president Nelson Mandela, uThabo Mbeki, uZizi uyikhulumile indaba yokuthi kungani bagcina be-withdraw ku-National Dialogue. But before ngicaphuna former president, unkosikazi kaDe Klerk, naye uformer president konke uDe Klerk, unkosikazi kaDe Klerk ubekhuluma kwenye podcast wakhuluma kanje.
That's really great. Are you optimistic about South Africa, Mrs. De Klerk?
I'm very heartbroken, to be honest with you, because nothing works. And I mean, now we try to look at the electricity prices, look at companies that need trains to take their products. Everything, it's like no-go area.
Everything is not functional. I can totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And as you did, I'm sure, obviously you had a friendship with the president. I'm sure you are disappointed with his.
I can't understand him because I know him for so many years. It's like he's lost.
He's lost the touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, everything is, I can't even name one thing that he has. I would say, look, this is what he stands for. This is what he has solved. It's, but was he ambitious when, at the time when you were friends, ambitious to be the president, would you say?
No.
Unkosikazi ka former president uDe Klerk udisappointed. Ayikho into esebenzayo. Amanzi asinawo. Ama-potholes emgwaqweni, ama-street light awasebenzi, ugesi uyabiza hayi kancane. Ugesi uyabiza, ubiza ngempela ugesi. Simo nje siphila phansi kwaso kule South Africa yethu ekhululekile.
Good day, Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, Mr. Dada Morero. And good day, the CEO of Joburg Water, Nchaveni Mugwevo. I'm speaking to you not as a politician, not as a news anchor, but as a ratepayer, a resident of Johannesburg. I pay my bills on time. I owe this city nothing. Yet since Thursday, my home in the northern parts of Johannesburg has been without water. Now, I'm told there were two major bursts in the suburb in which I live. In 2 days, two major bursts. Now that's honestly speaking, failing infrastructure. Now, some might say 2 days without water is nothing compared to other parts of Joburg, where residents have gone for days with dry taps, much longer than 2 days. But that's the problem. It's 2 days now, this week. It could be weeks next time. And that's what I'm afraid of. And many Joburgers are facing this reality. And it's not just me. I mean, across Johannesburg, taps are running dry. Some of them have been dry for longer than 2 days. Just last week, we saw Coronationville residents taking to the streets. And their words say it all. We don't need any more promises. We need water out of our taps. Now, Joburg calls itself a world-class African city, preparing to host the G20 summit in November, the first African city to do this. But what kind of world-class city cannot guarantee its people the most basic human right, water, out of taps in an urban area? The mayor, CEO, stop the promises. Start delivering. Start delivering.
Yazi ukuthi kuzama local government elections ngonyaka ozayo. So odabeni lwamanzi abezindaba bambuzile uSG okufikele embalulu ukuthi iziphi inhlelo nezethembisa abangazethembisa abantu. Kodwa nje obuzwa abantu bethi bakhathela ama promises. Bakhathele bafuna amanzi abantu bakhathele izethembiso. Yena uphendule kanje.
What is your commitment on water as the ANC to South Africans?
No, we are not going to answer commitments now. We will answer that when we get to the elections campaign. At the present moment, we are fixing what is broken. We have made a commitment and a pledge to South Africans. So we are on that pledge. So whether or not we will fail on that pledge, you can ask us that question at the moment we launch our campaign. At the present moment, we have convened a working meeting to fix our problems. And PEMI is responding to that from a side of government, what efficiently they are doing. And the ANC expect water to be a top priority of government because it affects our people. So the granular details, she will respond.
Engayisho lento before ngathi inkinga zethu lezi affecta thina ziyi-campaigning tool for amaqembu ezepolitiki. Yabona nje udaba lwamanzi luzobe becampaigna ngalo besitshela izinto efuneka abazenze kodwa kumanje bahluleka ukudeliver amanzi. For the past 30 years basemandleni amanzi awekho. So abantu aba-affectekile abangenamanzi abazi ukuthi uyaniyazi ukuthi la nihlala khona niphethwe ubani. Maniphethwe i-DA kodwa ninamanzi ivoteni out. Maniphethwe i-ANC kodwa ninamanzi ivoteni out. Maniphethwe i-IFP kodwa ninamanzi ivoteni out. Maniphethwe i-EFF kodwa ninamanzi ivoteni out. Lokho nje ngikushoyo. Kuze labantu bezokwazi ukwazi amandla ethu bezokwazi futhi ukusihlonipha. Ngoba kunalokho sizophenduka ibhola labo. Mabefuna ukuthi babe nemali bona babuyele eParliament funa babuye kithi bathathe inkinga zethu zibe campaigning tool. Ungabe bayazisombulula. So ilokho nje engikushoyo. Kodwa masithanda lezwe lakithi, iSouth Africa yethu lekhululekile, funa sivote ANC out of power next. Kuma local government elections. Asingene ke endabeni ka former president uThabo Mbeki. Ungabanye babantu engingamlalela usuku lonke. Ya former president ungabanye babantu nje engingamlalela usuku lonke angeke ngimind ukumlalela uZizi mayikhuluma ngoba ujwayele ukusho izinto engizizwa kahle. Ngicela uzwe la.
Last year 2024 many people asked me to say something about 30 years of democracy in South Africa. Yeah. There were many requests like this from the media, domestic, international, in various organizations. So I thought, no, I couldn't do these individual interviews. Rather, let me make one statement about this issue. South Africa in 30 years, and then answer questions after that. So I therefore addressed a public meeting and public address on the 30th of April last year about South Africa at 30. And having discussed everything about South Africa at 30, I then said, it seems to me that one of the things that needs to happen, because there are too many unanswered questions, it's not absence of knowledge of the problems. As our colleague, the president of the SRC, was saying, we know the problems of poverty and this and that and the other. The problem, though, is that as a country we have not been able to solve them, these problems. Never mind our election manifestos. All of us put out manifestos at election time. This is what we're going to do. None of them has assisted us to solve the problem, this problem. So I said, I think it is time that we get the people of South Africa themselves, the ordinary people, to get together and answer these questions. What do they think? Not political parties or whatever, but the people themselves. Let them meet and say, give an example. Why don't we have a national dialogue? The participants, for instance, in the national dialogue would be the women of South Africa. That's one constituency. So what you do, you ask a Professor Puleng Lengabola here, who happens to be a woman, to say to Puleng, can you put together a delegation of 200 women, inclusive of the women of South Africa, who must then attend as a delegation to the national dialogue? Same with the youth, same with the traditional healers, same with many people, the arts world, the people of the faith organizations, and so on. So you have delegations of this kind, of the ordinary people. Not to complain that we are hungry. We know that. But to say, how do you solve this problem? That let the people speak. Not represented by their political parties, but the people themselves. So I said, let's have that national dialogue. I then said that same speech that this idea, this thing is, I'm saying this thing, but it's too big even for me. So I'm going to raise this same matter with the foundations and say to the foundations, this is what I think. Can you people take up this matter? So I requested a meeting with them. Lutuli Foundation, Mandela Foundation, Tutu Foundation, Biko Foundation, Sobukwe, Mbeki, all of them. And said, this is what I think, this is what I've said publicly. I think you people must take up this matter. And fortunately, they agreed. So these are the people who then set about organizing for the national dialogue. Now, I don't know if Max Bogwana is still here. Is he here? Oh, you are here. No reason I'm mentioning Max is because the foundations constituted what became called a preparatory task team to organize a national dialogue. I've never been party to that committee. Max, who is the CEO of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, is a member of that committee. So I thought I would ask Max to come and complete an answer to this question, which was, why did the foundations leave? And what is going to happen in the consequence of that? I think it's best that the preparatory task team answers that question. I'm not a member of the preparatory task team. Ever since the foundations agreed, Max, can you please come?
So this is Ishmael, and Ishmael has been the youth league of the preparatory task team, and then because you needed to say, possible most of our futures have already been destroyed, but we must not destroy the future of young people. It's in their interest that this must work. But let me do something so that everybody can understand very quickly. In explaining what happened, in the course after the head of state had announced the date of the 15th of August, we were taken to court by one of the leaders of the trade union movement and the political party. And the papers in the court were saying, we know all of you. There is nothing genuine about what you are doing. You want to use government and government money to prop up the misfortunes of the ANC. So there's nothing trustworthy about you. And then secondly, he says, I know how you comrades behave. You've got interesting methodologies of skimming money from government. One way of you going to skim this money, you're going to do what this union leader says, do self-created emergencies so that you can get money very quickly, but you don't have time, plan, and transparent process of how to spend that money. So you will spend that money within few days. And it gives you an opportunity to do all manner of wrong things about that money. And he says then the third thing is that we don't trust this process because this process is not citizen-led process. It's going to be a government-led process so that the government can deal with its own problems. So this accusation is put directly at us. So we responded in detail and said, no, that's not correct. This process is exactly the way the president is talking about. We're saying our country is on its knees. There seems to be very lack of clarity where will this country will be tomorrow, politically and economically. And it looks like from the political parties we do not have the answers. So our view is that the people of South Africa are sovereign. And it's these people that must give the answer about this South Africa we want and this South Africa we don't want. We explained that this has nothing to do with helping the ANC. This has nothing to do with the abuse of government. So we write an affidavit. And secondly, we say these foundations will not touch money and this preparatory task team, if there's any money for any resources that are going to be used, they will be through NEDLEC that has got that such capacity. So there's not going to be any self-created emergencies as we are being accused. And as a result, the government is just going to be one of the participants. It's not going to be the drivers of the process. We write all of these things, and the head of state does the same thing, and ourselves at the foundations, we went to court. And as we went to court, we argued that there's nothing urgent about this. These allegations are not correct. And the court agreed with us and chased away that union leader. Here is the problem. 5 days after that, we were asked by some participants in the process to behave exactly the same way we were being accused. And our position as the foundations was that we can't walk away from the oath that we have taken. We can't begin to say we will solve South Africa's problems when we act on unprincipled basis. We can't solve South Africa's problems when we cause all of this chaos. So in the end, this is the work Ishmael and the team we have been doing for 13 months. They arrived 3 weeks before the 15th of August. A group of people say, we've got authority, we are ready, we're going to drive this process. 2 minutes. Yeah. So when these new people says, no, we are ready to have a convention at UNISA in 8 days, we say, but you can't. And as we're speaking, one of them says, no, here's 28 million rand, it has just come into my phone. So we said, this is exactly what we've been accused of. We do not want to be close to a process like that. But more importantly, we had organized, we had looked at about 30 sectors. We were saying the engagement of the convention, it will be very different from a Lekgotla, it will be very different from an Imbizo, because one of the challenges this nation must face is this idea of anti-intellectual. And this acceptance that our nation must be directed largely on semi-illiterate basis. So what we thought we should do is to identify 10, 12 pain points, SRC President, and put together some detailed work around these points, whether it's the economy, whether it's state of security, whether it's foreign relations, Africa agenda. We put together all of this work. And we said, so we got some two economists that wrote a very complicated economics document. We said, no, we'll take 2 universities, University of the Western Cape and University of Johannesburg, to help us summarize these documents so that they become understandable. We had young people in the group that says, we will do fact sheets and then we will do infographics. So that you take these documents, complicated one, less complicated one, just figures, give it to the women so that they meet on their own and discuss. Give it to the youth, they do the same thing, give it to the traditional leaders, all of the 30 groups. And from each one, having discussed all of these points, they will say, no, it's not 12 problems, it's 13, 14, 15. But this is our view. Then we constitute a convention. That convention is to begin the dialogue. based on this information that has been put together. So our colleagues that says, let's rush, they say, don't worry about the documents. So don't worry about all of the discussions. We will meet at UNISA. We'll find out when we get there what we talk about. And we were saying we can't get involved in a process like that because, as the SRC president was saying, this process has got lots of people that are doubting it. There's lots of cynicism about it. So the way we present it, it must be inspiring and transformative and very different from what has been happening in Izimbizos and other structures. Now, when we could not agree on the approach, we asked one of the intellectuals to sit us down and say, how do we put this process together? We sat as the preparatory task team that has got other people that are beyond the foundations. So when we agree on the best approach, we said, no, it's 8 days before the 15th of August. You can't do a credible process. So let's put this thing for at least 2 months and do it in such a way that South Africans see something new, not see chaos. And we agreed to put together that proposal and send it to the head of state so that together we can postpone this and do all of the preparatory work. The day we're supposed to go to the head of state, we were then told by some of our colleagues that they don't remember what we were talking about yesterday. So this thing must proceed. It's at that point then that we had to tell the head of state, says, the whole thing is not legally credible. So we shouldn't mislead the nation. The preparations are hopelessly underwhelming. We're not going to be able to produce the necessary agenda. We're not showing the necessary seriousness in this process. And at that point we say, but those that say they are ready, they can go ahead. But as the foundation, we've got a responsibility to protect the credibility and the legitimacy of this process. Why? Because it is just too important. It may be the only thing that saved this country from abyss. So we cannot allow it to be done in any other way by people sometimes where you think their objective is actually to collapse it. So whatever happened at UNISA happened, and we do not want to be harping on that. What we are saying, we're meeting the eminent persons group that had been put together by the head of state and say to them, let's put our heads together. How then do we start building confidence again in this process? It's a very heavy job, Professor Antony, because you are dealing with a process that was facing cynicism already. We have seemed to have plunged it in another difficulty. But this is one thing we're not going to give in. We are working to develop that confidence-building process. There's quite a lot of work that Ishmael and the team are working on. But in the end, we will have to regroup the way we had designed. We are not prepared to allow this process to fail. So we will actually look for support from the people that are in the room. But I'm quite happy to engage in this process beyond this. This was for the students, not for us. But thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. President, I just want to thank you for making the call for a national dialogue. Who would have thought that the FW de Klerk Foundation, the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, the Tutu Foundation, and many others, the Steve Biko Foundation, would be standing united in resolve. Because as Max said, this process is too important to fail. The youth of South Africa deserve a national dialogue whereby they have the chance to co-create solutions by their own African hands for the future. And I want to be a bit bolder than you, Max. Let us make no mistake about it. The national dialogue has been hijacked. Let me be clear. It's been hijacked. And it is our duty now as the citizens of South Africa to reclaim this national dialogue by whatever means necessary. We must also be wary of the fact that there are, as Max said, those who want to collapse the national dialogue. And we will not give them the opportunity to do that. This is why we are now engaging with the eminent persons. But thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thanks, colleagues. So that's the answer to the question that was posed.
Ubuzwileke ukuthi isizathu esenza ukuthi withdraw lama foundations ukuthi national dialogue comrade ayisefuna ukulutha. Angithi njengoba sekwenziwa state of emergency la kuzofuna khona kusebenza imali eziningi bese comrade alutha noma kushoniwe. Khona wakwakhuluma wathi balutha ngisho kushona uMandela ngomncwabo kaMandela balutha. Labantu laba abanye abantu la comrade lawo. So bengithi angikwazise nje ukuthi isizathu esenza ukuthi lama foundation ahoxe ku national dialogue ilesi kodwa awahoxile ngokuphelele ngoba upresident uThabo Mbeki ushilo ukuthi bazobuya njengoba dubezwa ukuthi no kufuneka le national dialogue baphinde bayibuyise. Mhlambe siyayidinga idialogue ezabantu base South Africa. Mhlambe siyayidinga idialogue la kuzoxoxwa khona ukuthi yini kahle into esiyifunayo nesifuna futhi ukuthi iSouth Africa ibe iSouth Africa enjani nekusasa la lezo ngiyacaba mhlawumbe siyadinga ukulikhuluma ukuthi ke kukhulunywe ngalo kodwa hayi le eyenziwe comrade. Asibambe le video ngicela ukuze ukuphawula kwakho la ku comment section masisupport ukusdonate ikhona account ku comment ephiniwe ngisisupport ngokuba imember ngiyacela phela nijoin membership. Sekhona ama-video efuna ngiwenze manje khona ngizonigqugquzela ukuthi nibe ama-member. Ngiwenza ukuthi abukwe ama-member kuphela. Sengilicabangile le plan angazi bengalicabanga ngaso sonke lesikhathi. Mina nawe sidibana kwi-video elandelayo ngiyabonga.